All right, guys, we are on the last couple pages. Great job tuning in today. I'm just really proud of how hard you guys have been working, and I also just want to say that we miss you guys more than you know. I hope that you're tuning into some of these Google Meets because it gives your teachers a bit of joy to see your faces. So, thanks for your hard work and letting us trust what you're doing at home. Let us know if we can be here for you in any way, and um, thanks for tuning in. I look forward to continue reading with you guys. All right, let's finish out strong. We're starting here at the top. York was a great favorite at the evening get-togethers. While Kuzat fiddled a lively tune, York danced a jig. He moved so nimbly the Indians were astonished. His feet skipped across the wooden floor as easily as water slips between the tree roots. Sometimes York coaxed Seaman to dance with him. York tapped Seaman's chest, and the dog raised himself to his back legs and rested his front paws lightly on York's chest. York put his hands on Seaman's sides and swayed to the music. Seaman only put up with it for a minute or two before he wiggled away, leaving York to end with a great belly laugh. That must be what this illustration is. That's so cute. As the evening wore on, even the healthiest dancers grew tired. Then the men flopped down and the storytelling began. While the men swapped hunting tales, Seaman lay by his front paws crossed, his head held high to watch the speakers. When the men told quieter stories about their families back home, Seaman lowered his head, dozed contentedly as John Coulter stroked his long, thick fur. During the month of February, the weather began to change. On sunny afternoons, the top layer of the snow melted, then at night it iced over. The men of the Corps of Discovery grew restless to continue their journey. On March 2nd, 1805, one of the explorers came running into the fort to announce that the ice on the Missouri River had begun to break up. That meant that the expedition would soon be able to travel again. Throughout the march, the fort bustled with activity. The men finished hauling out the new dugout canoes and caulked the older boats so that they wouldn't leak. They smoked meat for the journey ahead. Elk skin was dried and stretched into ropes. Supplies were gathered and packed tightly into boxes. The smaller group of explorers prepared to return to St. Louis with a keelboat and scientific information gathered in the first 11 months. They loaded the captain's field notes, letters, and journals. They packed the collections of plants and mineral hides, horns and skeletons of animals, badger, hare, weasel, mouse, and squirrel, red fox, coyote, and lynx, bighorn sheep, and antelope were packed to be sent to President Jefferson and the scientists of Philadelphia. The men carried aboard the live specimen, a prairie dog, a grouse hen, and 4 magpies, and stored them in the keelboat's cabin. Some Indian clothing was included, along with bows and arrows and a buffalo robe, and seeds for Indian tobacco and corn. Preparations for travel continued for the first week of April. The captains decided to hire Charbonneau as a translator. Although the Frenchman wanted the job, he asked to be excused from one of the explorers' chores, such as pulling heavy boats upriver or standing guard at night. The captains insisted if Charbonneau was going to be hired, he would have to do his share of all the work. Charbonneau hesitated, but he finally agreed to the captain's terms. He offered to bring Sacagawea to help him translate the Indians' languages, and the captains enthusiastically agreed. Sacagawea spoke to the language of the Shoshone Indians and knew some of the country that they would travel through. She would be a living symbol of the expedition's peaceful intentions towards all Indians. Surely none of the tribe's uproar would mistake the Corps of Discovery for a war party if the Indian woman and her baby were traveling with the group. Sacagawea carried her family belongings onto the boat, her infant son strapped on a board against her back. The explorers scrambled to help the young mother, and Seaman pranced along the riverbank beside her. When a shirt slipped out of her pack and dropped onto the ground, Seaman picked it up and carried it in his mouth onto the boat. On April 7th, everything was packed and ready to go. The men said their goodbyes to their friends among the Mandades. The captains gave final instructions to the group of men taking their keelboat back to St. Louis and waved farewell to them as they headed downriver. The corpse of Discovery boarded 2 pirogues.
Pirogue.
I think we've mastered it, folks. The corpse of Discovery boarded 2 pirogues and 6 dugout canoes and pushed off, heading upstream toward the Western Sea. After more than 5 months at Fort Mandan, the explorers were delighted to be back on the river again. That night, in his journal, Lewis described this moment of my departure as among the most happy of my life. All right, guys, we'll pick up on Chapter 7, Perils in Paradise, tomorrow.